Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. Well, hello there. Guess what today is? Yes, you know it's already. It's Tuesday, it's Daily Dish time, and I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for showing up. So, of course, you need to know what's going on, right? Because we have all kinds of things going on. And first of all, if you are a part of any of my classes, you've gotten the email, you already know about this, but I'm just reminding you that tonight is that bonus class that we have going on. And you're going to want to be there for that because it's going to be so much fun. Hey, Jeanette and Jocelyn, I'm really excited about tonight's class. I think you're both going to be there, but we're going to be talking about supplements. I'm going to give you a flyer and a handout that goes with it and tell you exactly what it is that I'm taking, why I'm taking what I'm taking. Okay. I've had a lot of people ask for that. And I said, well, let's just make a class out of it. So it is a bonus class happening tonight, and it's happening for my Take Back Your Body people. And also those of you who are who went to the Full Bloom workshop or are in the Full Bloom transformational class. How's that? Got that? All right. Just watch your email. That's all. If you have any questions, send that to support@savingdinner.com. Next. I'm excited about this one. It's our over 40 water. You guys, are you taking this? This stuff is thebomb.com. This is how you get your energy, keep your mind, your hair, skin, and nails, all the things. It works on everything. You can find this. If you buy 3, you're going to get 1 for free. I love that because that's going to keep you stocked. That's going to make you see how you can energize yourself, enrich the water that you're supposed to be drinking anyway, with a good flavor, by the way. It has that tasty citrus flavor, and get all the benefits from it. I love this stuff. Find it at savingdinner.com/show. That's where we're putting it all. Okay, y'all, I promise you, Jenny and I don't coordinate show notes and the quote of the week, but this one, boom, it just dovetails perfectly. This is it. It's an Einstein quote. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Did you hear that? That was the mic drop. Y'all, we do create some problems for ourselves, don't we? A lot of times it comes from overthinking, overdoing, over something. And today, we're going to go into this place that's called the gap. I'll explain it. Don't worry. Hey, Deborah, I'm glad you're here. I'm going to explain it, but this is juicy stuff. You need to hear this because, I wish I could take credit for it. I cannot. It's not my thinking, but it's exactly the place, and you're going to know this once I explain it. Okay, so I learned this concept a few years back, probably I think 2015, and I was doing this course called Strategic Coach, and I had to fly all the way to Canada to do it, but it was so worth it because Dan Sullivan, who's the creative strategic coach, brought people in to change their minds and mind shift them into understanding what's going on inside of them and why we get stuck is essentially it. And there's a lot of moving parts to getting stuck. It's not just one thing. Don't you wish it was just one thing? It's complicated. We're complicated. We're complex. We have a lot of different things going on. We've all had different experiences. But the gap is referring to the mental space right here between our current achievements and our future goals. So we're here, and then we want to be over here, and there's a gap that goes in between there, right? And I always say, you got to build the bridge. But we have to understand that one of the reasons why we are so maybe frustrated, maybe a little cranky about something or whatever, is that oftentimes we are standing in the gap instead of standing from the place of appreciating the stuff that we've already done and what our future possibly holds for us, if you get what I'm saying. So we have to measure our progress instead of measuring our progress by what's ideal, by what it is that we want, by what it is that we are hoping to achieve by setting these goals. Instead of doing that, what we measure ourselves against is the ideal. Now, hear me. When we measure ourselves against the ideal, what we're constantly telling ourselves is that we're not good enough until we get there. You know, this happens all the time in weight loss, by the way, all the time. It's all about those genes. It's all about that, whatever. It's all about that. But the journey to getting there is the place where we learn everything. It's the gap. It's the gap. We just don't need to stand in it, right? That's what bridges are for. Bridges span those gaps. And this is the place of learning. This is the place of being able to finally get to the place of achieving that goal. So let's talk about that. First of all, we got to understand what this is all about. Okay, let's understand what the gap is. The number one thing is comparison with ideals, and we know that comparison is a thief of joy. Correct? Always a thief of joy. And the gap is the space where people measure their current achievements, obviously, against their future ideals, rather than recognizing the progress that they've already made and from where they started from. You know, if we look at where we started from, if we start to say, but look what we've achieved. Look at what we've achieved from where we started. We had nothing. And here we are at this place now. The focus is different, and the feeling is way different as well. Number two is that being in this gap fuels feelings of inadequacy, right? Inadequacy. It leads to us thinking it's never enough. I can't quite make it. It's too hard. And what we do is, you know, obviously the focus is off. We focus on where it is that we're going, which is a good thing, but not to the point where it is that we're forgetting about where we've come from and what we've achieved. In other words, there is a huge lack of gratitude for the progress that has been made. I think that's one of the biggest things. And we have to take a look at that. Number three is this endless horizon. So ideals by nature keep moving further and further away. This is good, but I want to get to here. This is good, but I want to get to here. And I understand that. I understand that because that's what goals are all about. Goals are about moving the goalposts, aren't they? Goals are about getting to the next thing and the potential. But if all we see is that horizon, then we never get to appreciate where we are. And if that is the whole thing, you know, if we just keep moving those goalposts all the time and never celebrating those wins, then we are endlessly frustrated, endlessly grumpy, endlessly looking at things and saying, it's just too hard. And that's oftentimes the quitting place. And, you know, we don't quit on ourselves, do we, ladies? Pinkies up? We don't quit on ourselves. Do we, Catherine? Hi, good to have you here. So we don't want to stand in that gap. We want to build the bridge to get through onto the other side of that gap. That means that each step is a celebration. Each step is part of the journey. And when we have the audacity to start looking at our journey as being part of the whole thing, can you imagine? Everything shifts. We start to have great appreciation and gratitude for where we are and what we've done and how far we've come. Not only that, but then looking toward the future, we're excited about it, but being present here today in what we're earning and what we're learning and what we're becoming is such a celebration, such a thing to accomplish. So if we're going to, so if we understand that's what the gap is, we have to learn to navigate it. We have to learn to build that bridge. We have to learn these things so that we don't get so discouraged. Because discouragement, I'll tell you, it's just, it makes you feel like you're walking through wet cement. It just makes you feel just so less than what you should be, right? So here's what we need to do. Number one, we need to start measuring backwards. You know what that means, right? Instead of looking at the distance to your goals and your ideals, measure the progress from where you started and have that conversation. Tell that story. Oh, you just wouldn't believe. If somebody says something nice to me, oh, thank you. You wouldn't believe where we started from. You wouldn't believe how much different it is now. You wouldn't believe how incredible this is become. These kind of things are stories that we can tell ourselves. It's a reframe of how we're thinking as well. And when we do that, we start to get a realistic approach to, yeah, you know what? There is this horizon. There are those goals. And this is what the end of achievement looks like. However, here I am. And that's where I came from. And that gives us such a perspective. And the perspective is juicy, it's enlightening, and it makes us feel like we are definitely on the right path. We're on the bridge, We're on the bridge spanning that gap. That's what we're doing. We have to, number two, acknowledge that progress, because when we celebrate these milestones, these little tiny baby milestones even, of achievement, no matter how small, guess what happens? We recognize all of this progress, and guess how motivating that is? I know you already know. It's massively motivating. Do you know why? Because it's acknowledging who you are and what you've done. That's how we get things done. You would never say to a baby, oh, well, how come you're not running? Yesterday you were up toddling across and holding onto the coffee table. You should be running by now. It doesn't work that way, but that is the impatience that we have with ourselves. So think about that. Think about that baby learning to walk and becoming more and more steady on their feet, and understanding that it's going to take a little bit, and understanding it's going to take some falling down as well, right? That's the difference. And that, when we acknowledge that progress and see ourselves through that lens, things start to shift, things start to change. The appreciation comes in, the gratitude comes in. And we also need to, number three, is set realistic expectations. Look, we all have big goals, big dreams, but in order to make them happen, we have to parse them down into, okay, so this week, this needs to happen. This week, this needs to happen. I'm going to be doing this. Remember what I've said before about goals. Goals are dreams that are set to a deadline. And what do we do with them? We make lists on all the things that need to come in order to make those things happen, right? It's that simple. It is that simple, because that's how we progress through our goals. And then if we stay present with what we're doing and focus on the moments that we can take now, that prevents us from getting lost in the gap. When we get lost in the gap is we've taken our eyes off of our becomingness. That's a word that I just made up, but it's a word that's important, because as we're forming, our truth of what it is that we want to follow and become and be and do and all the rest of it, we still have to be taking a look at where we are right now, being present and celebrating those little wins. The other thing that you can do as well is, as you are doing this and as you are creating and becoming the next iteration of yourself, is that you need to seek feedback. You've got mentors, you've got coaches, of course, but you also have each other. You have a community, and this is that uplifting part that is so critical and so important. Hey there, Jane, I see you. But the biggest thing is to reframe this whole thing. We can tell ourselves a different story, y'all. We don't have to get stuck in the same old Eeyore story. We can tigger this up. You know how we do it? We do it by saying, I was here, but now I'm here. I'm so excited about the future, but right here is a good place to be. The acceptance of the present is absolutely crucial, because the acceptance of the present gives us a chance to put our feet down, anchor down just a little bit, so that we can really accomplish what it is that we need to accomplish, staying present in what needs to be done right now. When we're not satisfied with what it is that we're doing, when we're not looking at this journey the way we need to be looking at it, then we forget all about that and we don't enjoy it, because the journey is pleasant. The journey is pleasant. It's sort of an upgrade from traveling coach to traveling business class or something. There's a definite upgrade, and you can really start to enjoy it. You can really start to be present with it. You can talk to your seatmate. You can talk to the flight attendant. You know what I'm talking about, right? So engage in your present. Engage in what this is about, because it changes your perspective. It changes everything. This today filled with what it is that you maybe don't want just right now. But it's until you accept where you are that you get to move forward to where you want to go. That's part of the gap as well. So you just got to get into that. So I love reframing your thinking, because it's telling a new story from a different perspective. Remember that. Hey, Lynn, glad to see you. Lynn, by the way, just posted like 75 pictures of our last get together. I think it was in 2021 when we did, or 2022? What is it? It's 2024. It's 2022 when we did our full bloom right here at my house. So I'm going to go back and look at those today. Yeah, it was 2022. Can you imagine? So hard to remember. I keep forgetting it's 2024. But this whole idea of the reframe and telling a different story, of having a different perspective, is something that is well within your power to do. And it is the most, I think, empowering thing I've ever done in my life. Because when you tell a different story and have a different perspective and lean on that strength, everything starts to shift and change, and you have a little bit of a softer look at your other stuff, and you can say, you know what, that's going to come. But for right now, I'm going to enjoy exactly where I am. Big deal. Let's make sure we look at that. The other thing is that we have to maintain that growth mindset. You know the difference between a closed mindset and a growth mindset, or a fixed mindset. Carol Dweck tells us about this in her mindset book and her TED Talk, which is just so excellent. Don't shut it all down. Don't say I can't. Stop saying I'm overwhelmed. Stop putting yourself in a little tiny corner where you're just going to get pushed and pushed and pushed and shoved. Instead, start looking at, this is one more way that I need to learn. This is one more thing that I've learned that doesn't work. It's an Edison moment, right? How many times did it take Edison? So many times. So this is going to help you navigate the gap. This is going to help you to see things from an entirely different perspective. Because if you get that framework right, and if you start to tell yourself a different story and have a different perspective, you get to get out of the gap, get onto that bridge, and start creating the path that you want. So while, in essence, the gap represents the difference between our current state and our ideals, the key to all of this navigation is shifting our perspective. That's it. And you remember, perspectives change all the time, right? I think I've told the story maybe a million times, but it's important, because people have different perspectives. People have different viewpoints and vantage points in which they see the world, themselves, etc. And if you keep that in mind, that keeps that flexibility flowing. A long time ago, when we first moved here to Brevard, Mark and I were standing outside looking out into the trees, and I saw a pileated woodpecker. That's the big woody woodpecker. They're about 18 inches tall. They're really super cool. And he was right there on a tree, and I kept saying, Mark, it's right there. It's directly in front of us at 12 o'clock. And I kept saying it and kept saying it. I kept saying, I can't see it. I can't see it. And I finally dawned on me, well, he's 6 foot, almost 6'3". I am 5'7". So I grabbed him, pulled him down, had him at my head level, and said, right there, do you see it? Oh, I see it now. That's the difference in perspectives. And at any time, We can have our perspective go up or down. We can adjust them. That's what I want to leave you with. Adjust your perspective. Reframe your story. Start looking at the accomplishments that you have made, how far you've come. And while we hold and look at our ideals and look at our goals with genuine care and concern and desire to achieve them, remember who you are, whose you are, and that you have the power at any time to reframe things and stop getting so desperate about those goals and to start looking from the perspective of you are here now. That's what counts. And the journey to get there, it's going to happen. Just keep your eye on the prize, but also keep your eye on the journey and your own perspective. Amen? Okay, that's all I have to tell you about today. But, this is a lesson we all need to hear over and over and over again. Sorry, but just is. All right, I really appreciate the fact that you show up. Really do. For those of you who are going to be in the class tonight and you're wondering, well, where's all the information about that? Check your email. You know who you are. I just don't want you to miss it. I'm looking forward to seeing you all. Thank you so much, Catherine and Lynn and everybody else who showed up today. Appreciate you all. Peace be with you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.